Hello, friend. I want to tell you about the Opel Vectra car. The range of engines gave customers a huge choice. Petrol engines with a capacity from 1.6L and 100 horsepower to 3.2L V6 with 211 horsepower were enough for everyone. In addition, the OPC Sports version with a 2.8L V6 engine and 255 horsepower, and after the facelift, 280 horsepower. There was no shortage of 4- and 6-cylinder versions, naturally aspirated and supercharged. The diesel range initially included 2- and 2.2-liter DTI, 101 to 125 horsepower, well known from older models, after the facelift purchased from Fiat 1.9 CDTI with 100, 120, and 150 horsepower. In accordance with the trends of the time, a large and powerful diesel engine had to appear under the hood, which was to impress with torque and performance. Such a one was installed, but the supplier was not Fiat, but Isuzu, which provided the 3.0 CDTI unit. It has a power of 177 horsepower, after the facelift 184 horsepower, and a torque of 350 to 370 nanometers, and later 400 nanometers. What's wrong with the Opel Vectra C? If we are talking about the 3.0 CDTI version, it is actually only the engine. Other faults may turn out to be insignificant compared to the scale of problems that this Japanese engine unit can cause. The worst thing is to buy a car from a year up to 2005, i.e., with an engine marked Y30DT. This is a trap, because for an unaware person, such a Vectra looks attractive, usually richly equipped, often with an automatic, with high power, and of course diesel, i.e., economical by design. This engine, although designed by a company specializing in durable drives for the harshest conditions, has not fully proven itself in passenger cars. The problem here is the unfavorable heat balance in the engine compartment. A large unit in a small compartment with a small cooling system heats up. The 3.0 CDTI engine emits a lot of heat, so much so that it could burst the coolant reservoir. In addition, Opels and Saabs had small oil pans, although this still meant a lubrication system capacity of 7.2L Vectra. Interestingly, the same unit usually causes no problems in Isuzu off-road vehicles. One might say, coincidence? The worst effect of engine overheating is the settling of the cylinder liners, but it is not them that cause seizure, but the coolant that escapes through the gap created by them. The symptom is similar to the destruction of the head gasket, and here we have 2 V6 system. The problem turned out to be a gasket that was too thin, which was corrected later, and besides, the original gaskets sold as spare parts were also later thicker. Manufacturers who used this unit solved the problem in their own way. Opel modernized it in 2005, designation Z30DT. It turned out that changing the thickness of the gaskets and a slight modernization around the cylinder liners changed the face of this engine, which turned out to be failure-free in this area at least. The same can be said about the older engine, which was properly repaired in time. Despite this, you have to constantly monitor the coolant level because it is still easy to overheat. This is not a unit for people of the "I don't touch my car" type. Unfortunately, the bushings are not the only problem. High power and torque can quickly destroy a dual-mass flywheel. If you choose the version with an automatic transmission, it won't be any better. The automatic has a hard time withstanding the engine's power, and it also tends to overheat. The turbocharger has variable geometry, but it is durable. The same can be said about the Denso injection system, which is unfortunately expensive to repair. The worst thing is that the pump is also a sensitive element, and when it is necessary to do a general overhaul of the fuel system, unfortunately, prolonged driving with damaged injectors often ends with piston burnout. Fortunately, there are no major problems with the timing belt drive. What else besides the engine? The Vectra C suspension is expensive to repair for this class and age of car. Unfortunately, the front aluminum wishbones have to be replaced in their entirety when the pivot, what's worse, the rear suspension, consisting of one longitudinal arm and three transverse ones, also wears out. Fortunately, these elements cost relatively little. In the front, the upper mount of the McPherson struts often knocks. Shock absorbers will be much more expensive if you buy a model with IDS G01 suspension, not to be confused with IDS, with variable damping force. The Vectra C also struggles with electrical problems. The most troublesome is the automatic air conditioning control module. There are no major problems with body corrosion if it has not been repaired amateurishly. Is it worth buying a Vectra C 3.0 CDTI? First of all, why am I writing about this not very popular version? Because we have a growing longing for big and real engines, including diesel. Because you can buy a car really cheaply, and it's easy to get carried away during a test drive. So because it's easy to get tempted, is it worth it? No. Buying such a car is not economically justified in any way. If you want to enjoy performance, it is better to choose the most powerful 1.9 CDTI diesel or a larger petrol, or even the OPC version. However, if you are counting on cheap operation, it is worth considering buying a smaller petrol and installing an LPG system. Having a 3.0 CDTI engine may be a form of increasing the car's prestige, but for an old used car, it does not matter much. The risk is too great and the operating cost too high to consider this engine. Thank you for listening to me. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of any problems with this car that I did not mention, be sure to write about them in the comments.